What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
The red imported fire ant, or rifa, are indigenous to the Brazilian rainforests, making them strong and efficient predators. They were first reported in the southeastern part of North Carolina between 1965 and 1974, and central North Carolina between 1985 and 1995. These ants were inadvertently brought over and now have proven themselves to be a veritable menace to native species here in the southeastern part of the United States. Rifa are well known for causing lots of damage to the agricultural industry by destroying crops and killing livestock. A 1998 study conducted in Texas reported that Rifa managed to rack up costs of over $500 million worth in damages and pest control. Red imported fire ants are notorious for supposedly driving out two native species of fire ants from Mississippi and are outcompeting native ants because of their more efficient foraging behaviors, having collected 82% of bait items within the first 24 hours of placement, as reported in a 1996 study. These red imported fire ants are a widespread threat and, according to the National Agriculture Pest Information System, have invaded California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, and even as far north as Maryland. The feral hog has a very visible impact on whatever habitat it happens to be in as it passes through and forages for food. This is partly due to its voracious appetite that creates competition among a large number of native species, as the feral hog will eat almost anything. Nationally, the feral hog causes $1.5 billion worth of damage annually. That damage comes in the form of devastated habitats no longer suitable for native wildlife, as well as the destruction of cropland. With North Carolina being a foremost producer of domestic pigs in the U.S., feral hogs also pose a threat to our state economy. If feral hogs interact with a domestic pig, diseases can be spread, rendering the livestock's meat unfit for consumption. The viruses not only pose a threat to pigs, but humans as well. Humans can contract them in the same manner as other hogs. Our state government is beginning to realize how much of a problem these hogs are, as well as the potential disaster they could bring with them. As such, the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission ruled that there would be no bag limit or hunting season for these animals. In other words, a hunter can harvest an infinite amount of these feral hogs with no tags. In North Carolina, the feral hogs range from mountains to coast, with larger populations in the mountains and the inner sandhills. They are beginning to pose a substantial threat to Wake County and other highly populated areas within the state. Kudzu originates from China, Japan, India, and Micronesia. It was first introduced into the United States in 1876 at the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at the New Orleans Exposition in 1883. The Soil Erosion Service and Civilian Conservation Corps facilitated kudzu's widespread distribution across the United States as it was promoted and used to reduce soil erosion. It is now estimated that kudzu is spreading at a rate of 50,000 hectares per year. It was not until 1997 that it was added to the federal obnoxious weed list. It is estimated that power companies spend $1.5 million each year controlling kudzu from overtaking power lines. It is also estimated that between $100 and $500 million are lost in forest productivity each year due to kudzu overtopping trees and blocking the sunlight from reaching their leaves. One way to control kudzu is through systematic grazing by cattle and goats in a fenced-in area. Herbicides and mowing are also techniques that are used to control kudzu. The flathead catfish is also referred to as the yellow cat, Johnny cat, and Mississippi catch. These catfish were first introduced in Arizona prior to 1950 in the Gila River system. In the United States, the flathead catfish originated in the central United States, specifically in the Mississippi and Ohio rivers, the Rio Grande River system, San Carlos Reservoir, the upper part of the drainage in New Mexico, and the Colorado River in California and Arizona. The catfish populations in the Colorado River in California and Arizona resulted partly in a stocking of about 600 flathead catfish made by the Arizona Game and Fish Department in 1962 above the Imperial Dam. In North Carolina, the catfish were introduced by state fishery management agencies in the mid-1960s. Due to the fact that the fish can grow to large lengths and is enjoyed by anglers for being a fighter, the flathead catfish was introduced for their popularity in both recreational fishing and noodling. The impact of the flathead catfish has been linked to the population decline of the federally threatened Gulf sturgeon by consuming young benthic fish in the Apalachicola River. In North Carolina, flathead catfish have caused the populations of native sunfish and catfish to decline, specifically the bullhead catfish and the white catfish, present in the Neuse River. In Georgia, the flatheads are eating the larval fish hosts that are needed to complete the life cycle of the freshwater mussels that live there. High numbers of flathead in the Salt and Verde rivers have limited the success of attempts to reintroduce the Colorado squawfish in the mid-1980s. Also, the flatheads have led to the collapse of the native fish populations in the Salt River upstream of the Roosevelt Diversion Dam, which in turn has led to the reduction in productivity of the threatened bald eagles that breed along the river. Early research indicates that intense fishing and electrofishing of flatheads may provide a way to remove enough individuals so that native fish populations can survive. Anglers are also urged not to release the fish in the Delaware and Susquehanna watersheds. The daily limit of flathead catfish is 5 per day. Dr. Thomas Kwok of North Carolina State University urges anglers to practice catch and keep. Flathead catfish must eat 10 pounds of food to gain 1 pound of weight. Due to their consumption habits, the flathead catfish has been named the most biologically harmful fish in America by the United States Geological Survey. The hemlock woolly adelgid originates from Japan and was introduced into the United States in 1951 near Richmond, Virginia. The woolly adelgid is critically damaging eastern forests from Georgia to Maine. The adelgid attacks the tree at the needle attachment points on the twig. This results in needle drop and the death of the tree. Death of hemlocks from the insect's attacks result in destruction of forest, loss of biotic material, and removal of native tree species needed for food and nesting. The death of trees in the forest creates an open canopy with increased sunlight. These factors of microclimate create sites with higher wind speed, more light on the forest floor, and lower humidity. The adelgid moderately defoliates trees, which reduces property value by about $7,261 per house at risk. 50 to 80% of all hemlocks in affected areas are dead. Predators and pathogens in North America cannot maintain the woolly adelgid populations at low enough densities to prevent them from damaging hemlock forests, but offer more promise than abiotic control methods. One of the more promising methods of biotic controls include the use of beetles that feed upon the hemlock woolly adelgid and combat their spread and damage to the forest. These species show the most promise for control because they contain the necessary attributes for wide-range application: similar range to the adelgid, phenologic synchronization with the woolly adelgid's life cycle, and similar natural habitat to hemlock woolly adelgid. Nutria, which closely resemble North America's native beaver and muskrat, have their roots in a much warmer climate than their North American relatives. These mammals originate from south of the equator in temperate South America. They were first introduced into the United States in 1899 to be harvested for their furs. Coastal states such as the Carolinas are at higher risk for nutria damage. North Carolina has precious marshland that not only serves as a biological filter for harmful chemicals and pollutants, but also as a nursery for many economically beneficial fish fry and crustacean larvae. To make matters worse, nutria destroy valuable natural habitat and compete heavily with other species. This results in an altered wildlife diversity that is challenging to fix. Through constant burrowing for young plant shoots, nutria dramatically increase erosion rates as well as the risk of flooding. Agriculture is also significantly impacted if nutria have a chance to gain access to fields and young plants. Flooded fields are a common sight in low-lying areas where nutria have taken up residence. Despite a slow economy, millions of dollars are spent each year in an effort to stop the spread of nutria and to restore marshlands and other habitats that nutria have destroyed. As for individuals facing a nutria invasion, the best control is prevention. Fencing around bodies of water discourages nutria that may view the area as a new potential home. If nutria are in the area, The landowner must decide which method of control to use. Hunting, trapping, and poisoning are all options with consequences that must be considered before being implemented. Control is best decided on a case-by-case basis because of the many factors that affect their use.